So now let's move on to the next technique of data transformation, of which is nothing but standardization. So standardization involves transforming data to have zero mean and unit standard deviation. So we will understand, we will use the G-score method for the standardization in data science and machine learning. G-score normalization method is also known as a standardization method, and standardly we call G-score method itself is called data standardization. So this is interchangeable. Sometimes we call G-score normalization method, whereas in data science we call it as a G-score standardization method. Okay. So for now, we are data scientists, so that's why let's take G-score method as a standardization method. So now what is a data standardization? Data standardization converts data into a standard format that computers can read and understand. This is important because it allows different systems to share and efficiently use data. Without data standardization, it would not be effortless for different approaches to communicate and exchange information. So, data standardization is also essential for preserving data quality. When data is standardized, it is much easier to detect errors and ensure that is accurate. This is essential for making sure that decision makers have access to the accurate, reliable information. Overall, data standardization is critical to ensuring that data is usable and accessible. Without it, we would be unable to use and manage data effectively. So, the next question that comes, why is okay, let me put it here. So, data standardization. So, why is data standardization important? Data standardization is essential because it allows different systems to exchange data consistently. Without standardization, it would be challenging for computers to communicate with each other and exchange data. So, standardization also makes it easier to process and analyze data and store it in a database. This is the main important point. Standardization also makes it easier to process and analyze data and store it in a database. So, with this approach, business can make better decisions based on their data. When data is standardized, companies can compare and analyze it more easily to make insights that they can use to improve their operations. Data standardization has many benefits, but one of the most important is that it helps businesses avoid making decisions based on inaccurate or incomplete data. Data standardizations ensure that the companies have a complete and accurate picture of their data, allowing them to make better decisions to improve their bottom line. So now the question arises, how to standardize data. The next question that comes into the picture is how to standardize data. So we will be using G-score method. G-score method to standardize the data. So now let's look into this method we have seen earlier, and one more time I just want to explain how to calculate. So the G-score formula, let me put it here. G-score is equal to individual data point. Let me put the individual data point. Summation of everything, like it'll have summation of symbol and individual data point minus mean of data set all divided by, well, it's not required, divided by standard deviation of data set. So that's what is our G score. So here, so now let's take one example and we will calculate the G score. Then after that we will jump on to the another example. So we'll take this simple example of the standardization. Okay. Now we'll use standard. Let me use the similar one. Okay. So I'm going to use the standard scalar method. The standard scalar. That's the reason most of the libraries define this method as a standard scalar method. Because in data science, for us, G-score method is nothing but the standardization method. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, so I will bring up a data set. So the data set would be units. I'm going to name it as units. Units is equals to pd.read csv, and it's unit sales and units. Yep, this is our data. So month, unit sales, price, ad expenses, promotional expenses. So everything is numeric variable. So some are discrete, some are continuous. Continuous variables and then a discrete variable. Okay. Now what will we do is I'm going to take the whole data set as units. So G score of unit data set and put it, this is the whole data frame. And I don't think next let me get into the G score units and then G score units, then obviously our data frame is also units, and let me print units, and here is that's it. It's pretty quick because we have done it earlier, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drop G score units dot drop NA. Oh, sorry. And okay, so now we dropped all NaN values. Now you can clearly see the all standardized values, and by and large everything looks same. See, all the values look same. It's in between the mean or in between the 0 and 1 standard deviation. So if you just want to cross check the standard deviation of, let's take any one example, let's take the month. Okay, so units month, and I'm gonna go for the standard deviation. It's 7.07. Okay, this is the standard deviation of months. So that's one standard deviation you can take up, and here is that values. You have the 0 and then it varies between the 0 and the 1 standard deviation, and similarly unit sales also 0 between 1 standard deviation, price and everything. So that's what Now that's how it works. Now that's the example. That's how we standardize our data series. We standardize our data frames, and so that we can use it in our data modeling.